Lately, fake news has been a topic on our lips, and with the rise of social media and its power of virality, the task has been to decipher what is true and what isn't.
I don't like the term fake news. I want to agree with the position taken by a professor in the United States of America, saying that the media ought not to promote this, because if it is fake, it is not news. News is the representation of reality, of what really happened in the society. So once you have fake, he said we should rather use the term viral deception, because there's an attempt on the source of that information to deceive and mislead people. So what we call fake news in media terms should be misinformation, misleading information, distortion and hoaxes promoted by someone that has an agenda of misleading the public or confusing the public in order to achieve either a political, economic or social goal, or to cause about disaffection in the society.
It's something that keeps affecting the society for years to come. I'm a postdoctoral fellow with the Bauer, and what the Bauer does, like some other fact-checking organizations, is that it fact-checks fake news or information disorder online and on the media space. And I see that, they'll bring, something will be shared online, it will be fact-checked, and then a year later, the information is trending all over again, and people are believing it. And it's not just about politics, it's not just about elections, or, sometimes it's even about health. You see people who, believe misinformation online and they die or they lose their loved ones because they believed, what they read or what they were told. And so for me, I think we should guard our media space before we guard our nation, because information disorder can kill from being. It can destroy everybody without you seeing the enemy that's destroying you. And what I find more appalling and sad about is the fact that even media organizations that are reputable, I've been listening to your discussion, and I have to agree absolutely that social media has given us people who are claiming to be citizen journalists, are all social media influencers who just go out there and spew racial, religious, ethnic, malinformation and cause chaos. But what is more disheartening are media organizations, credible, reputable media organizations, falling into information disorder.
Fake news is a threat to everyone. It's a threat to you, it's a threat to me, it's a threat to societal order. It's a threat to the journalism profession. All those who have spoken before me now have pointed out the fact that this thing has crept into even what we call professional journalism. Before, I was not worried because of Facebook, Twitter. Not that I was not worried, but I felt, if people wanted to cross-check the facts or whatever as represented to them, then they will go to reputable newspapers, they will go to professional outlets. But this thing has crept in now, because a lot of what we now call conventional papers, professional papers and TV stations, they are now taking a cue from social media. They will see some information on social media and they will grab immediately and rebroadcast without even verifying, which is a tragedy.
It is.
Now, what have we been trying to do at the cable? Anytime we see a piece of information that we are unable to confirm, we have a fact check desk. So we pass it on to them and say, please cross-check this information, especially if it has been published. Now, this is where some people have problems. Those who are professional journalists can easily, like Mr. Otitoju said, he calls the Chadian ambassador to Nigeria. Is this thing true? But what I have found out is that many of the people who are pretending to be journalists, they do not have more than a mobile phone, and then they bought data. That is all they have in their lives. They cannot call anybody to confirm if what they have seen is true or not.
Fake news has been around for so long. It has in fact been around for as long as the media has been around.
what has led to a lot of journalists, practicing journalists, scholars, and the rest of media watchers to come up with the terminology of fake news is the promotion of outright falsehood. Do we have that challenges with the media in history? Yes, of course, because that's what we used to call yellow journalism in the print medium, where you make an attempt to sensationalize issue. You turn everything into a tabloid in order to gain the attention of readers and win readers for it. So, as far as I am concerned, I share the idea of that viral deception, because in modern times, with the advent of technology and with the evolution of social media, people post a lot of things on social media that are outright lies, deception, and misleading information.
I'm sure everybody is all about the PIB bill and how 3% is so small for derivative communities and all of that. I read Mr. Simon Kolawole's article, but my question is, how many Nigerians are going to sit down to read such articles that will explain, the nuances and why trained journalists, are wrong to be misinterpreting and weaving, falsehood around facts. So I feel the problem we have, perhaps it would have been easier if information disorder is not even happening in reputable media organizations. So we can tell people, you know what, you get your news from here. But now we can't even say that. So it's everywhere. And that is why fact-checking, like what Baba is doing, improving media literacy is very key, because you have to be on guard.
There's a difference between a mistake and what I call mischief. A professional newspaper, a properly established newspaper, can make a mistake and say this has happened when it actually didn't happen. Now, what a professional newspaper does is to now do correction, retraction. New York Times is one of the most respected newspapers in the world. They have a column dedicated to corrections and clarifications every day so that they can set the record straight. Now, that is the professional way of going about it. So we have to segregate that from those who actually go out deliberately. It is intentional. There's a motive when they push out this information. There are also people who just created something out of a joke. By the time they post it, people will now start broadcasting and resharing without a caveat that, this is just a joke that we are creating. When Chief Femi Panika, they crossed over to APC, somebody quickly did a design and said, Yaya Bello, Panika, the ticket, and started sharing. Now, I can bet the person was just having fun. But now, those who would not bother to cross-check, those who would not bother to verify, we just go out and say, you see, these are the people that APC wants to feed.
Away from the media, some feel the government's desperation and lack of proper education are causes of the continued spread of false information.
Issue of fake news has become so prevalent, as said, but this traceable to the disposition of the government itself towards information dissemination. If we are in a season where government has turned its own information apparatus, information machinery to a platform for propaganda and for dissemination of their own truth, misleading people, misguiding the populace. So that is invariably encouraging people that if government is marketing lies, if government is marketing untruth, so what moral pedestal do you have to question people who just wake up and spread fake news all over?
Fake news is as a result of the fact that the space is being dominated by a lot of semi-literate and desperate people, and that is why they engage themselves in fake news, spreading rumor, and fake news is dangerous to the existence of any society. Education is the only solution to curtailing the effect of fake news. If you have a society that is enlightened, they might not likely embrace fake news. So we need to strengthen our curriculum, and we need to make primary and secondary education compulsory in this country.
In a country as populated as Nigeria, religious and ethnic differences can be sources of conflict, with facts not seen as sacrosanct. The truth gets blurred and misinformation gets peddled.
There is a concept in dealing with misleading information, in dealing with hoaxes, in dealing with false information, is the concept of pillarization. We create pillars in the society. That's by playing identity politics. For example, if you go to the Americans, there's African American. We look at people based on the color of their race, on their gender, and the rest of it. And in the process, we give a narrow perspective to issue. Now you talk about Fulani herdsmen. Are all herdsmen in Nigeria Fulani? Have you ever heard the term of Ijo fishermen? Have you ever heard of the term Igbo traders? The media should not join the political class in creating pillars. Over time, people tend to accept that as a reality. And when we accept that as a reality, it creates division within society, and it creates misconception among the citizenry.
The effects of fake news are not mild, with a risk of causing major problems in any society.
It's very, very serious. That's why we're sitting on something very dangerous, something that can, set the world on fire. We're dealing with a phenomenon of both misinformation and disinformation. Misinformation could mean it's not quite deliberate, but disinformation means some people are deliberately putting out there materials injurious. The intent is to manipulate the minds of the people for objectives known to them, for their own interests. That's absolutely inimical to national development. It's injurious. Now we've gotten to the point where people can't even differentiate between what is real and original anymore. And that is made more difficult by the democratization of the media space. Now everyone is a mini TV station. Every person is a mini newspaper man. People can sit in the corners of their homes and cook up whatever it is and put it out there. And when even the original comes, people even begin to now dispute the original. And most of the time, the kind of news that we're talking about are such that are deliberately put out there to promote hate, to promote bigotry, to manipulate the minds of people for deliberate purposes of causing division. When you talk about what that can do, then you think back to countries who have been victims of, who have had experience with genocide. For instance, Rwanda. You look at the role that the media played in Rwanda, for instance, or the role the media played in Kenya. Even Nigeria, way back, you think to the Second Republic and politics, and the role the media played. Maybe broadcasting was used to manipulate the minds of the people. So, and that is why ordinarily the media is not something that it ought to be in the hands of anybody. That's why media has proper filtering process. Before an item can make it to the top or make it out, you have to go through a process where people will vet to ensure that this is really true. Because once it's out there, the damage might have been done, and it's not easy to make amends thereafter.
Thankfully, there are laws that can punish persons guilty of spreading fake news.
There are laws that regulate or affect fake news. There's the laws of sedition, the laws of defamation, the various broadcast laws, and of course, individual peer content management rules from different organizations and bodies. For instance, the Nigerian Institute of Journalists or the Nigerian Union of Journalists, I beg your pardon, have mechanisms for sanctioning members who have infracted the rules of traditional journalism, right? So naturally, when a journalist has gone foul or run foul of any of the rules and has put fake news out there, there is a peer disciplinary mechanism for addressing those kind of things. They can either suspend him or withdraw his credentials, and that will address the matter.
Somebody can send any cock and book story to somebody in America, like bloggers, and they will now go viral. Will you now how do you now punish those people over there? That's where the control and the regularization is very, very difficult. We can make law within our own space to regularize it. But mind you, those people perpetrating this, they are doing it for a purpose. When you look at the bottom line, the purpose is not just to run this person down, it's to make money. All I know is we can still look inward. We can look inward and make a law in tandem or in conjunction with those media space, Twitter, Instagram, what we have an understanding with them. Just like what happened recently when they said nobody should go on Twitter. We can control it. We have an understanding with the provider, and they will now know what type of news to go. If we hold the provider liable, then the provider will now hold liable the users, because they have the data and the information of the users. So it's a way. There's a way to control it, and definitely we will start from somewhere. We'll start making law. We'll make law, and we'll now bind them. There will be an understanding and agreement between the country, which is the federal government, with the providers.
The good news, if it are called good news at all, is that it's a global problem. It's not limited to Nigeria. Now, why it is good news is that even confronting it now, we can have a common front in fighting the scourge of fake news worldwide. In Nigeria, actually, there are laws that already take care of these things. But we always think we need new laws. That is the way we are wired in Nigeria. There is a Telecoms Act that deals with the abuse of telecom platforms for mischief or whatever. It's there. And of course, there are also laws of libel and defamation. We have them. So the problem now is the enforcement. But we're also in a political environment where there is suspicion, the government is trying to censor, oh no, the people are trying to pull down the government. So it makes it difficult to even know the way forward. That is one, if you are talking of the legal aspect. But the aspect that I have been trying to promote in my own corner is fact check. So anything anybody sends to you, please don't broadcast, don't share until you have cross-checked. You cannot put something in a group that has 200 people and say, please, is this thing true? You are indirectly telling people to reshare. You are just being hypocritical. Why don't you pick somebody there that you trust? And in some WhatsApp groups, when some information is being shared, somebody will just send to me directly and say, please, cross-check this thing before I post in the group. You can see somebody who is sincerely trying to verify.
Who is the gatekeeper? For example, in the mainstream media, there are gatekeepers. In broadcast station, the producers are gatekeepers. In the print medium, the editors are the gatekeepers. Now, the internet has liberalized the media landscape. It has given opportunity to all comers, freedom of entry and freedom of exit. And who controls? What kind of control mechanism do you have? Who is playing the gatekeeping function? You know that if we allow, it is not everything that a media organization cover that we see on the airwaves. Some are edited. And the editing function is the gatekeeping function. The production function is the gatekeeping function. So we have a situation whereby anybody that had access to a smartphone, has access to data, can publish whatever story he wants to publish. And then depending on the kind of pillars we have created in the society, depending on the kind of pillars, like I explained to you now, Oh, let's say for example, I just use that hypothetically. That's Fulani herdsmen are on Lagos Ibadan Expressway. Before you know it, what happens? The virality of the message, people keep sharing it without measuring the authenticity of that particular and they share, click and share, and that creates problem in the society. But this is where the mainstream media comes in, because our responsibility is to clarify issues and to allow people to make informed decisions from what happened in the society, because people always validate what they are exposed to on social media through the mainstream media. But if the mainstream media becomes part and parcel of what happened in the larger society, then we begin to have problems.
One thing people do is that they share fake news or misinformation, but when they see the fact check, they rarely share it. So if you share misinformation and you get a fact check done by Dubawa, and then you should reshare it so that other people can know about it. I think we also need to promote media literacy. People need to know how media works. I think after Sunday Igboho's house was bombarded and all of that, somebody created a fake Facebook picture to show that the ammunition were actually recovered in 2013. I mean, everybody who saw that thing believed it. But if you are media literate, you will know that there are technologies, there are applications that can create fake Twitter posts and fake Facebook posts, So what we're trying to say is that if you are media literate, we can't go back to the old era of the almighty media effect theory where you believe everything you see on social media or everything you hear. So, being media literate, because before you sue the person to court and all of that, the havoc could have been done. So we need to, promote fact checking, and every media organization needs to have a fact check desk like the cable does, and like the Bauer has also helped many media organizations to, to set up so that they can also verify facts. I mean, even if you correct, some people have gotten the information and they'll still keep going about it with it. I took a Marwa some days ago because I wasn't going far, and someone was still saying in the Marwa that Buhari is from Sudan, the real Buhari is dead. This is 2021. You can just imagine some things some people's minds will not change regardless of the correct information that they have once they've been exposed to misinformation. So that is also very critical.
But how do we define what is fake and what is not? Is there room for abuse in determining this?
I sincerely am not a particularly great fan of those laws of sedition. I think they are too easy to abuse. They're too easy to abuse to restrict and reduce the freedom of individuals. We've seen it happen in Kaduna State. Certain individuals, we've seen it happen in Kano State. We've seen it happen in the crossover state with Agba Jalingo. So those laws are easy to exploit to restrict the rights of citizens to express themselves, and especially in cases where they're expressing matters of truth.
Having in mind freedom of information, since we sign it and we ascribe to it, we are going to abide to it. But all information are not free. There are some that are discreet that you can't just bring out. In a situation where this is brought out, what do? They will still hide under that as a fundamental right.
When there is an infraction of those laws, government should not, since the law is the law, once the law exists, no matter how unpalatable that law is, it is the law. So once those laws exist and people are found to have infracted them, I think the punishment should be swift. Judges should be trained also in raising the quantum of compensation they give people who establish that they have been defamed, because defamation is a serious matter. So you can't just come and find that someone has been defamed, and then you award 30,000 or 100,000 naira. How far would that go in addressing the damage to the person's character and reputation?
The conclusion here is that fake news is damaging and an end must be brought to it.